Short video lessons that I made are dedicated to the fundamentals of jazz improvisation, and all of the knowledge that you can get from these videos you can use in any other styles of music. Talking about jazz music, I'd like to emphasize that most of its founders were that kind of people who never knew what is taught in music schools. And after all, we can clearly see how their music became the object of study in many universities around the world. All these people are jazz legends, the people standing at the origins of jazz, standing right behind it. But despite the fact that they've never paid much attention to the classical music education, they have always had what I call musical mind. And deep inside of their musical mind there were always a certain musical structure, sounds, combinations, formulas, rules and laws. And even though they have never put any of this on an empty blank paper, this structure in their musical mind has always existed. And that is exactly what my lessons are about musical mind and how to build it, about what must happen in your head before you start playing and while you play music. I have already made a few videos about fundamentals of jazz improvisation, and it was about the basic elements of jazz phrase and the parts that it consists of. But however, it's not the only thing we need to know. The fact is that all of the sounds exist in time and space that is equally divided into a measure or a bar, that is smallest measurement of musical range. A huge variety of sounds such as different scale degrees, intervals, triads and seventh chords exist inside of time, equally divided by the pulse of the meter. So chord progression and melodic lines of improvisation are both exist inside of a bars. Chord progression goes first and generates a melody that comes from a chord progression. So melody comes from chord progression and directly depends on it. Let's talk about chords. Chord consists of minimum 3 notes played together, played at the same time. But in jazz music we use a lot of seventh chords, which consist of minimum 4 notes. Any chord is built on a certain scale pace. It means that before we build a chord, there was a scale there. From this scale, certain notes were selected and those notes were combined into a chord. When we create melodic lines while playing an instrument, we literally break a chord into notes that are in it. And use them to create a melody or solo or lines of improvisation. It can be said that melody is a chord broken into its sounds. So to make a long story short, melody came from a chord. The chord came from a scale. Scale exists inside of the octave and represents the way an octave was divided into a scale using equal tempered tuning system. A scale is a collection of pitches following in ascending or descending order. 7 basic sounds or tones within each octave represent a scale called diatonic scale. Five additional tones added to the 7 basic tones form a scale called chromatic scale. They don't have a specific names. Their names are formed by adding signs of alterations or accidentals, sharps or flats, to the 7 basic tone names. As a result, an octave was divided into 12 intervals called half steps, half tones or semitones, forming a tuning system that has been accepted as the standard. This tuning system became known as equal temperament tuning system, in which the octave is divided into 12 intervals of equal size, called half steps, half tones, or semitones. Every musician has at his disposal that exact tuning system from the very first steps. In this system, octave divided into 12 half steps, half tones, or semitones. But where chord progression came from? It came from two harmonized diatonic scales, major and minor.
Major scale harmonized with triads. Minor scale harmonized with triads.
Harmonized scale is a scale that consists of 7 chords instead of being made up of 7 notes.
Major scale harmonized with seventh chords. Minor scale harmonized with seventh chords.
In other words, if we want to create a chord progression, we need to come back to a harmonized scale and select the chords you need, and then combine it into a chord progression. Then you place your chord progression into a bar structure. Then you count how many bars belong to each chord, and then place a melody over each chord.